Today in the Diz List, we rank our top 5 Disney Pixar movies that need a sequel right now.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that lists everything of Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 104, where we rank the 5 Disney Pixar movies that need a sequel right now.
We'd also like to thank all of you who are listening to each and every episode. You know who you are, and we know who you are as well. Listen, this week we saw the walls go back up at Epcot.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome back, Walcott. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do a Patreon later on, where we talk about what's behind those walls and what we hope will come from behind those walls.
Well, and that particular ride you're talking about, Test Track, I feel like you have such a love-hate relationship.
I love the ride, and I hate that it's always down. So I hope that they fix the computer issues they've been having with it.
You've had a lot of issues with that particular ride, and I know both of our sons love creating the car and doing the customization.
Yeah.
My son was actually talking about that in the car the other day. We were driving home from my niece's birthday party on Friday, and I put on in the car music for all the rides. You know, we're all singing along and doing the funny voices. It was a good time, but my son says, "Oh, Test Track music comes on," and he says, "Oh, there's Test Track music?" Which is a conversation for another time. Is maybe Test Track needs more iconic music. We'll get to that. But he remembered. He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember designing a car with Julie, who is your wife."
Yep.
And he goes, "We made this car that was a boat."
They did. I remember exactly what it looked like.
He remembered that moment and was talking about that.
Yeah.
So my point is, and I know that it kind of got a little bit off track, but that kids remember that stuff. And those things specifically are really gonna stand out. Like my memories playing in like the Playland on the outside of, or the technically inside at the end of the Imagination Pavilion.
Yeah,
is one of my best memories growing up from Disney. Is that whole area, which is just
little Robbie running down the Rainbow Tunnel.
Yes, little Robbie was running very fast. Sunburned, sweating everywhere. I am a redhead, so very fair skinned. Burn very easily. The
idea that they're going to be fixing this ride, fixing it. I don't know if it needed to be fixed, but you know what I mean.
Update.
Yes.
Yeah. Same idea.
One thing that's interesting is that it's an outdoor ride. The exciting part is outdoor.
Well, let's call it an indoor-outdoor ride.
Yeah, indoor. Sure, it's an indoor-outdoor ride.
Some of them are like that. I mean,
that when it's raining or thunder and lightning or anything like that, it has to be shut down.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a way for them, or if they would even consider somehow doing something along the lines of what is over at Tron, because Tron can run.
Mm-hmm.
But just a thought.
Well, what if over the track they have something similar to? Oh gosh, I'm trying to describe what this looks like. Let's think of it like some kind of acrylic or plastic wave that comes up over the track, similar to
Tron?
like your. Well, no, it's not. I got to do a better job describing it, because that to me is like an awning over top. Think of your soccer dugouts.
Oh yeah.
So how would you describe that? And what are they made of?
No, it's acrylic. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
What's a better way to describe it then?
No, you're fine. That's a very good way to. I was just being a jerk.
So the edge of the road comes up and curves like a wave over top of it. So really, you only have about maybe 65-70% covered. So if it was raining and the rain was coming from the opposite side, you would get wet. But would that help?
I think anything that kind of covers that up a little bit, whether it be a full-blown canopy or something like you're talking about, would improve the ride. But I think our listeners, if they're interested in this, should check us out over on Patreon.
Yeah.
So patreon.com/DizListPod, because we are going to record an episode for that. That one will be out next. Well, as this is released, it'll be the weekend after this is released.
Yeah.
So that'll be out.
Yeah, I'm interested in chatting about that too.
Yeah.
Talking about World of Motion, the previous ride.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I had a Disney adjacent experience today, and it's going to be a stretch. So I just need you to go along this
Today,
ride.
there hasn't been much today that's happened yet.
I understand that. So I went to Walmart.
I didn't tell you this when you came in, but I was at Walmart probably half an hour before you.
That's funny.
Well,
Okay, so I was at Walmart, and I'm going around. I had a bunch of stuff I had to get. I had to get some new trimmer line. I had stuff that was all over the place, so it was like, what's one place I can get all of it?
yeah,
It's, I'm going to a concert next weekend with my son, so I had to get earplugs.
me too.
I had to get
Well, not with my son, but I'm going to a concert too.
I had to get some trimmer line. I wanted to get a pressure washer, just random stuff. I had to get cards for graduation. That's like one place, one-stop shop. I can go to Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
So, and stick with me here is where I'm going with the Disney adjacent. I go through this person's line, and his name was Michael. I'm going to give him a shout out. Shout out, Michael, in case you actually listen to the
Wait a
Disney
minute.
podcast.
I've had this guy before. He's super outgoing.
Yes.
And you put your stuff on the cart, and he's like, "Hope you're having a good day," and he like sings.
Sometimes.
Oh, he did last time I
Okay.
was there. I know who you mean. He's got long dark hair.
Yes.
I love that guy.
Yeah, well, I do too now because I put my stuff up, whatever, and he's like, "Hey, man, you see this trimmer line? Do you really want to buy it here?" I was like, yeah." He's like, "I'm just telling you, for the same exact price you're paying here for this 100 feet of line, they sell the exact same stuff at Harbor Freight for 250 feet." He's like, "The same price." I was like, "Well, I just gotta. If I didn't have to go get," he's like, "Oh, I just don't want to upsell. I don't want to like charge you more for something that you can get for cheaper somewhere else."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "That's kind of cool. This guy's nice, right?" Then he like goes and gets my he reaches over and uses the little gun, the scanner gun thing, to scan the pressure washer I was getting. And he's like, "Just go ahead and hit no on the extended warranty there." And I was like, I looked at him. He goes, he's like, "They never ever honor it, so don't even bother." He's like, "Why would I charge you $23 for something they're not going to honor? And this thing's got a 2-year warranty on it anyway."
Wow.
That's just stupid. I don't know why anybody would ever do that.
This guy's smart.
Right? And I'm like, I don't like shopping at Walmart, but in much the same way that like Disney is super expensive and people are like, "Man, there's a reason we pay more money to go do it."
Mm-hmm.
Because the cast members make it so. This dude made it so I'm like, I don't even care that I'm going to spend more money on this trimmer line. I want to go get more to go back through your line.
I love the guy.
I know it's like I said, it's Disney adjacent and it's a stretch, but it reminded me of how great the cast members who work at Disney are.
Yes.
At just making you feel good, even when you're dropping thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And they're honest. They'll say, "Don't do that. Just do this instead." Like, that's silly.
They're helpful.
You know what I mean? They're helping you. And he was like, what are you doing? Don't ever push yes on those here. They never honor them anyway. Like, just don't do it.
And he must know from experience.
Yeah. He's like, they don't honor them. So like this particular company has a really good 2-year warranty on it. It's dumb. You're going to pay money for a 1-year warranty that doesn't even matter. I was like, I wanted to say, there was somebody behind me in line. Otherwise I was going to say to him, "Have you ever thought of working at Disney?"
You should.
Well, and the guy, you said he
I do.
sings sometimes?
When we put our groceries down, my wife and I went the other day, and we just got a couple little things, and we put it down. That's how we started. Hope you're having a good day. I do that when I'm goofy, but who the heck can stay like that the entire time? But it wasn't annoying either.
No.
He was just like a friendly dude.
There's a few people that work in like positions in our village that are like that. That guy that I just met today.
Yep.
And the dude from 7-Eleven who is always super upbeat.
Oh yeah.
Like, they both should be like, "Hey, sign me up for some Disney." They would be great. Seriously.
And we'll go and visit you down at Orlando.
Yeah, I get it. That was kind of a weird stretch.
No, but it ends up being a shout out to the
Yeah.
great cast members.
Yeah, I mean, it happened, and I was like, wow, I felt like I was at Disney for a moment. And that's the fact that that's the comparison I made, not like, "Oh, he's just a really good worker," but the fact that I was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm at Disney."
Okay, I got another one that's a stretch that you just reminded me.
Okay.
I felt like I was in Disney for a moment, lots of moments last week. So if you don't live in kind of the Northeast or For you, probably a 90, 92 degree day is probably like a drop in the bucket, right? If you're listening in Orlando, you're like, oh, whatever, no big deal.
Right.
But at the end of June, having weather in the 90s is very unusual.
The real feel was 105 on Monday.
It was. So for,
Tuesday.
And I realize that our country is very large and it's very diverse as far as the weather goes. But in the Northeast, in Western New York where we live, generally will be this time of year is what? Maybe average, could be 80 degrees, 82. Maybe
Average
this
is
time
high
of year.
70s, I think, for this time of year. But yeah, it's not unusual for us to touch 80s.
So for
this time of
me,
year.
it was every time we would leave the school. For example, we're both teachers. If you're a new listener, we work at the same school, and if I would walk out of the school and that heat would hit me.
It was thick,
and I felt like, okay, I just got off of PhilharMagic, and now I'm getting hit with the concrete heat. You know what I mean? In that area, so it's I look at it as we're training. This is Disney training.
Yeah, because it was
training for the heat.
I'm 2 weeks away from going, and that is exactly what it felt like. Was like I even did some yard work this week on purpose to be like, I have to get used to being outside. Monday we had that massive storm come through.
Yes.
That like on my road blew down a tree that blew down 4 transformers and a couple poles. And
you were without power
for a while, like 12 hours. Yeah.
Jeez.
So that was like, oh, it's a Disney, and it was one of those Disney style storms too, where it came through and was done.
And hit hard.
And it was, hit real hard.
The painful rain, we call it.
Oh,
the
it
rain
was,
that hurts.
Yeah, that one was actually even worse than some of the Disney storms because there was destruction with it. But all week it was like that. And we were playing soccer, and it was like 100 and it was 102 when we left the house, and then luckily we were going up toward the city, which is Rochester's a little bit more cooled by the lake. We were close enough to the lake that it was helping a little bit, but not a ton.
Yeah.
It's been a hot week. It's been a real hot week.
So that's also Disney adjacent. So I brought that up as well. So
it's very much felt like Disney weather up here.
And here's a good way to end, I think, after all this is what's really happening between the two of us is we're really getting close to our trip, and this is what's on our mind.
Yeah.
We are starting to mentally prepare for what's about to come. We are going through our lists to make sure we have everything that we need. And this is really the exciting time.
Yeah.
We're so close.
Like I'm like ordering stuff because I'm like, if I don't put this order in now, it doesn't arrive before I leave.
Right.
That's the kind of spot I'm in. Like I'm placing an order for some t-shirt samples from Magic Merch
Nice.
that the family wanted. So we're gonna be doing that. I'm so excited. It's going to be a blast. Going with my brother and sister-in-law, staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge. It's going to be so much fun. I've never been there, never stayed there, and looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time. And you are doing something new, too, because you're going to be staying off-property.
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Well, you're on... Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm. You're in a Good Neighbor hotel. You've never stayed in a Good Neighbor hotel. You've stayed off-property.
Yeah.
You stayed on property. Now you're off, but not off property. Because it's on property, but it's right?
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we have a view where we can actually watch the drone show.
You might be able to. Are you near the west side of the... not the west side, oh, darn. What the heck is the name of that area?
Let's talk about it this way. Is the drone show closer to World of Disney, or is it closer to Cirque du Soleil? Which is technically west versus east, but you tell me which side.
I go by restaurants because I don't go by shopping, so I'm going to tell you it's near Haleo and Saratoga Springs area.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, then depending on how high it is in the sky, it's possible, and I'll report back.
But the good news is because of where you're at, you could easily walk over there,
which we'll do. Yeah.
I'm excited. So we're going to head off to the halftime show, and this week the halftime show. Rob, I got thinking. No, it's if we were to do what I've been doing, randomizing and selecting 2 patrons each week. First of all, randomness means you might not get picked for a long time, and you might get picked multiple times within a couple weeks.
That's true. You do teach statistics, so I'm going to go with you on this.
So with our patrons and the number we have, at this point, people could go over a year and not have their name mentioned.
Sure.
So I'm going to start doing 2 a week. I'm going to mention 2.
Great.
2 featured patrons. So Craig H., and Dwayne H. are today's patrons of the week. You can join them on patreon.com/DizlessPod. You can join for free, where you'll be kept up to date on any new happenings. Or you can join at the Dumbo Pilot or Jungle Skipper levels. And at those levels, you get different benefits, but those benefits include things like early access to new episodes and bonus content. We do an extra episode every week that's released solely to our Jungle Skippers.
I'm glad you said that. I feel like a lot of times we just gloss over the fact that there's a whole other episode that we do every single week.
Yeah, it's basically a whole second half, because a lot of times it's anywhere from 15 minutes to, we've had them as long as a half hour, so it's almost the same length as our second half of the show.
Yeah. So if you like what we do,
yeah, and it's usually a little bit different than a list. So sometimes it's lists, not always. So that's a good thing to check out. And we also have some previews up there if you are interested in it. There's like 5-minute previews that are available to free members as well. So if you just go there and you can sign up for free, you'll get updated, and you can also listen to the previews and decide if it's for you.
Cool.
But that's over on patreon.com/DizlessPod. And if you're not already following us on social media, it is at DizlessPod, pretty much every single place. Welcome back. Today we're going to kind of divert a little bit from the usual talk about the parks, and because Tiana just opened, it caused a conversation between Rob and I about some of the Disney movies that are in the parks, and then that led to the fact that the Inside Out 2 movie is out, and then it turned into like sequels. And so that's why we're here. This is what the circuitous route we took here. My kids have seen it. My daughter has seen Inside Out 2 twice. As well,
my daughter has seen Inside Out 2 twice also.
My son saw it. Mm-hmm. I did not go. According to my wife, their showing was equally as kid-driven as your show.
Yeah, we had that conversation
and
too.
Said that
little crazy.
Said that she agreed with what you said, that it's a good thing I didn't go.
Yeah.
I don't. For those of you who are unaware, I don't see movies in the theater unless it's Star Wars, and that's mainly because I don't like people. No, it's because I don't like people. I don't like rude people, and rude people are generally the ones I end up going to movies with. You know what I mean? I'm there, and I always sit next to the person who's loud or who's eating the loudest snack in the place the whole time, or is like, oh, wait till you see this part, because they've seen it 5 times. Like, ugh, I hate that.
We work in the same town where we live.
That's the other issue.
And I know some stories. I won't say any names, but there's been some students who are a little talkative that you've run into and had to sit by, I think at least twice.
Yeah.
You've gone to the movies, and surprise, you were seated next to this young talkative man.
Yes. And oftentimes at a restaurant in town, it happens too.
Huh.
Like 5 times at the restaurant too. And it's like, oh my God.
Wow.
Talkative's a word.
Yeah.
Disruptive's another.
Yeah.
I would go with disruptive.
Yeah.
So I choose not to go. And if I'm going to, Star Wars I can deal with, because I'll go like the night it's releasing.
We have to.
And the people who, we have to, because we have students who are jerks and will tell us everything. And I made the mistake. I remember I made the mistake of not going early for one of them. And the next day they're like, can you believe that they killed Han? And I was like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah.
I looked at the student and I said, if I could force choke you, I would. So anyway, so that movie is the single highest grossing animated release since Incredibles 2.
Yes.
For a sequel.
Correct.
So that's huge. I mean, it did really well. And some people are upset. They're like, oh my gosh, this means that Disney's going to start making more sequels. And I don't think it's a bad thing if they choose the right ones to make. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Right. The only other thing I want to throw out there before we start is I was listening to another podcast that I really like that has to do with animation. And one of the guys on the podcast is he's in the industry, and he's a writer in the industry. And he was saying he got to see the new Despicable Me movie. Is it 4? 3?
It's yes. I lose track because I don't know if you want to count Minions and like.
Right.
Yeah, there's like I think 4 or 5 in the franchise.
Either way, this gentleman said it's going to be a giant hit. He said that the movie is fantastic. It's hilarious. It is very well written, and he says not to take away from. I mean, the release times sound like they're accurate because they released this now. It's doing really well. They've really needed a good kids movie, and sounds like Despicable Me is going to be great too. So,
yeah, I mean, the thing with Inside Out too that people need to also recognize is, from what I understand, and this is like, we're not going to get into spoilers because I haven't even seen it yet. However, from what I understand, I mean, it grows up just like Toy Story has grown up with the people who it was aimed at.
Yeah, and so I don't think that's a spoiler.
No, and I think that's a great thing that, like, this is a movie that could very easily have legs for 3, 4 movies because the people who identified with it are growing up, and like the emotions themselves are changing, but they're relatable.
Right.
So I think it's a great choice for a sequel. We've got 5 each. I bet we're going to have some overlap of other Disney movies we think should have sequels. So do you want to go ahead and jump right in?
Yeah. So my number 5 So I tried to get semi-specific with some of these. It depends on which. Yeah. And so my first one is I would like to see a sequel to Up. But I want to see an Up prequel.
Okay.
I want to see the couple, I'm blanking, Mr. Carl, and what's Carl's wife's name? Mr. Fredrickson.
Ellie?
Yeah, I think it is Ellie. Yeah. So Carl and Ellie beforehand, an adventure between Carl and Ellie, I think would be kind of cool because Disney and Pixar have not been a stranger to doing something like that, especially with Monsters, Inc. It's a
Monsters
sequel,
University.
But they do Monsters University before. So I would like to see them go back in time.
Did you rank yours? I have a question. Are yours ranked?
Kind of.
Okay. Because I'm having a very big internal conflict right now.
Yeah. Because
I ranked mine.
Yeah.
And I also have Up prequel.
Yeah.
On my list.
You also have Up prequel?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Then don't worry about the rank. Just jump in and do that. Okay. Yeah. Your next one is Up prequel. Go ahead. Jump in. That's your number 5 or your next one.
Because you're like Up. And I was like, he's going to say prequel. And you did.
There we go.
And I have it. It says
what do you have?
I have Up prequel.
Do you have any ideas?
Yeah.
I'm not. Some of them are super specific. Some of them I'm not.
I want it to be even earlier. Okay?
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that Carl is very much the wilderness ranger as a kid. You know what I mean? He is that kid. So I would like to see it.
He's enthusiastic.
Yes, exactly. Right. And so I would like to follow that kind of storyline and the reason I want to go that early is because then it would also open it up for another sequel to the prequel that's also still a prequel to the original.
Cool.
And it could be a 3-movie set. That movie is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. Mm-hmm. It is so well done. Nothing is better either than like going to Animal Kingdom and you know you're running in. Kevin's running down the middle of the.
It's incredible. Yeah. I go out of my way to find Kevin.
Yeah, and then it's always confusing to hear people. I love him. No, it's a her.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, no, it's not. Yes, Kevin's a girl.
Yeah.
Or like Doug when they had the Up show for the birds, and it's no longer Up, I don't believe. But it's just such a great movie, and Carl is like that typical grumpy man who's been turned. It's a movie that doesn't really have a villain, right? I mean,
well, yeah. I mean the one guy with the blimp and the dog, sort of.
But it didn't. I don't think it leaned too heavily on that, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no,
they could have taken that villain out.
It was more
about him coming around to the idea and like learning to grieve and like the whole thing.
The movie's main conflict is sort of survival for a long time.
Yeah.
And the relationship between Carl and Russell, and you know, a lot of movies you don't necessarily have to have a villain, and there sort of is. And I think if more than just the old millionaire, and I don't remember his name, so I'm going to move on. It doesn't matter to me. It's not that crucial. But Doug has enemies in the Rottweiler and the Bulldog and the Doberman, right? I think those are the 3 types of dogs.
I feel like Carl's enemy is himself.
Absolutely, because he gets in his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, they did a sequel sort of in that short. Was it Carl's First Date or something like that?
Yes, that was very sweet.
But it's not full length. And I think that this is a movie that I want to know about Carl as a young man. I want to know Carl. And don't get me wrong, I love the idea you had of like Carl and Ellie. I think I'm almost positive it's Ellie.
No, it is. As soon as you said it, I agreed. It is.
So, but their life together and their adventures would be fun. It's just it's a heartwarming film. And, the world passes us by while we're growing old sometimes. And that's what was happening to him. And then it took this bumbling fool, which is kind of what Russell is, to kind of bring it out of him and snap him out of the funk he was in. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. That's why I have a prequel on my list. It was not rated low. We're now just throwing everything out the window. If we match up, we'll just talk about it.
And I moved a couple around before we started.
Okay.
I mean, I said that to you as in between, the first half of the show and the second half of the show. But like, I don't know.
And
I'll throw like all of them.
I'll throw in there because we are a Disney Parks podcast, not just and we don't usually do movie stuff. I would throw in. I still stand by what I said that Peter Pan's flight switched over to a up ride would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. What do you got? What else you got on your list?
My next one is going to be Big Hero 7.
Oh.
So they made a cartoon series which kind of followed up Big Hero 6, but it was, I don't know, it was average. I really think that Baymax character animated the right way, and I'm thinking a different environment, not San Francisco. Let's take 2 other cities and combine them, and they have to go to a different place for a different reason. And the team, it's the same team, add another member, because, Full House, there's a new, or maybe it's not Full House.
Full House.
What was the show? Family Ties. There's always they use the term jump the shark, because in Happy Days, they had Fonz jump the shark. What I'm saying is, like, in those 80s and 90s sitcoms, there was always like a baby out of nowhere, and or I think
the Cosby Show did it.
They did, because they brought in Raven Simone, and Leonardo DiCaprio became the extra person on Growing Pains, I think.
Growing Pains, yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of my point here, is you bring in, and that's what Inside Out 2 just did. They brought in anxiety and embarrassment and all those characters. For Big Hero 7, you add in another character, and then there's a different location where they go, and there's another, villain to fight. Baymax is such a fun, cool, hilarious character. I'll be honest, I didn't watch that cartoon show because, I'm an adult man and I have lots to do, and watching a TV show is a pretty big commitment with the small amount of free time that I have. So it was tough to commit to watching that. But if there was a Big Hero 7 in the theaters, plus I think that's a hilarious name for a sequel. It's like Leonard Part 6. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Bill Cosby came up for the second time this episode. Weird.
So I think that what's also cool about that is it would give an opportunity. So you've got San Francisco, the land over in Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Or Disneyland Resort, I should say. And then you could easily, whatever they make for a city this time could be on the East Coast, possibly.
Sure.
I don't know what it could be, but it would be great no matter what it is. I don't disagree with that. I wasn't a huge Baymax fan, Big Hero 6 fan.
It's hilarious.
But that doesn't mean it's not good.
Up.
It's a good film. So
crack me up. I was trying to think of characters and films that I really liked and I connected with, and what I would want to see again.
Yeah. So I have one that I know you like. I know you liked the original.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them on my list, I have a definitive where this would go. This one's a little tougher because the story does kind of end with an ending. And so I'm not sure what they could do, except they kind of already did it. And I'm going to say that they need to turn the animated short that was 6 minutes long into a full length, and that's going to be Tangled Ever After. So Tangled Ever After was a 6-minute one.
I have this too.
Okay. All right. Tangled Ever After?
Okay. No, it's
All right.
just called Tangled 2, and mine, we can elaborate from here.
Yeah.
It just deals with their family.
Yeah, well, so Tangled Ever After was a 6-minute short. I think if they make that into a full-length film, it'd be fun. I will say this. It's hard because Tangled Ever After, or Tangled, I should say, has one of the best villains ever.
Yes.
And so I think that it would be that's where this one's a tough one for me. Mm-hmm. It was on my list, and it was off my list, and it was on my list, and it was off my list. Now it's back on my list, and the reason is I can't get enough of the ugly duckling. I can't get enough of them singing, and the guys who you wouldn't. It kind of reminds me of, if you're going to talk about a live action film, it reminds me of the scene from Elf where they're in the mailroom and they're all singing.
Yeah,
it's like that, or like when in Elf when they cut to the bar and the guy's crying in the because they've just read the what he wants for Christmas or whatever, and he's like got a tear coming down his eye in the bar, and he's like, oh, it must be another guy with that name. I think it's a great film. I think it's great characters. This is another one that could be a prequel. Like, what about Flynn Rider's past? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are your ideas though? I'm sure you've got
my
some.
idea was it deals with we'll call it the Tangled family, Rapunzel's family, and Flynn Rider. But it also deals with the ugly duckling characters and their families and how the two of them are sort of interact. So the family of the royals mixing with the family of the ugly duckling patrons and workers, and the kids are friends. So it's sort of a metaphor where, the kids are friends, but do the royalties, are they going to mesh with the common folk or not?
I mean, we're basically saying turn Tangled into the Shrek franchise.
Yeah.
I mean,
could be.
It's very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about Shrek 2, I thought, okay, Shrek is there's a definitive end to the story. And Shrek 2 comes out and you're like, oh, wow, this is like something new. And it's following families. They got the little ogres, and you got the little donkey dragons,
yeah.
Whatever the heck they are, donkeys with wings. Jack dragons, we'll call them.
Sure. That's a good term.
Jack dragon. But anyway, I think that Tangled's one of my favorites anyway.
Me too.
And so I think that's one of those. Obviously, I mean, it made your list as well. So, yep. But it was one I thought was hard because I'm not really sure what direction to go with it. But I like your direction. I also like a prequel direction with that one. It's hard to say.
Give me anything, as long as it has the ugly duckling characters.
Yeah. I need, God, his name always
Garrett.
Bradley Garrett. Mm-hmm. I need him in that because his character is
he has an awesome voice.
Yeah, I love his voice, and I love all the characters he plays in every movie or TV show.
He's
just
awesome.
Like it's great. So
yep.
That was mine. Tangled. It was on your list as well. Does that mean
it bumps back to you again?
Okay, so there are some Disney movies that have fan fiction that's been written about them afterward. There's a lot of Disney movies are books. And they're stolen IP from books. They're no longer IP because of the whole...
Like the Brothers Grimm stories?
Correct.
Yeah.
But this particular movie is one that was redone, or there was a fan fiction written called Brave Lee, and it's a sequel to Brave.
Oh, cool.
The book is written by, I'm going to butcher this last name, but Aggie Stiefvater? I can't pronounce.
Where did you hear about this? This is a deep cut here.
I was looking, doing research for this. I was like, I wonder if there's a Brave sequel, like a Brave short sequel. You know what I mean? Because I knew the Tangled Ever After, so I just Googled Brave sequel. And Bravely pops up, and I was like, oh, that can't be the same thing. But then I look at the picture of the book, and it's very clearly Merida. I mean, it's not Merida because it's not, obviously IP things. But then apparently it's a story that's been written by this woman that is just a different take afterward. That's cool. About how she wants to still go out and bravely attempt to find a life of adventure. Because Merida, that was her thing, right? She was an adventurous soul, and that was kind of what the conflict was with her mother.
Yeah.
And I think there could easily be some more conflict. There was really in that film or in that movie there, I don't think there was. That's another one where I think the character themselves were the biggest villain to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one where maybe you introduce I haven't read this book, so I'm just saying that like from the synopsis of the book, it's basically that she's kind of going out, leaving Dunbrock and going to find her own adventures. And I love Brave, and I think Merida is a severely underutilized character.
I haven't watched that one in a while.
So
I think before I go, I said this too to my kids: is there's some movies I got to go and rewatch. Princess and the Frog, rewatch that.
Yeah.
Moana, I've really only seen once.
yeah, Moana would have been on my list, but Moana 2 is coming. So
And Moana remake, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Because they're doing live action Moana Part 1
Yeah.
and the Moana sequel.
yeah,
It's a lot.
but yeah, Brave was on mine. Don't have too much more to say other than like the sequel's kind of been written for them already.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool.
Use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you got?
So my next one, it's kind of similar to what we said in Tangled, where we have this crew of characters that we like so much, and they're sort of side characters from a movie, but we'd like to see them more prominent in the next movie, right? For me, they've already done a sequel to this movie. I want to see a third one. The first one is Finding Nemo. The second is Finding Dory. And now I want a movie about Bruce and Bruce's friends. Because I think the sharks are so cool. And they have the funniest personalities. I love their accents. Show me more. And I don't even want to speculate as to what it's about. I would like some really genius Disney writer to come in and create a world based around those characters. And I just think maybe Bruce comes back and Bruce is on the program where he's, not going to eat people anymore, or that, where he smells the blood, he goes nuts. Maybe there's another big bully that's making fun of him for this, or who knows.
You don't even have to have Dory and Nemo and Marlin. You don't even have to have them in it.
No, not at all. I think it's a sequel, but it doesn't need to have it. We can look at it as like a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie where it's part of that universe, because you're looking at this enormous ocean, and it could include one of any, undersea creatures in any capacity.
I think that's a very good idea. There's so many good side characters in that film.
Bruce accidentally travels to Cape Cod. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna go with a Jaws reference. Never mind. That'd be awful.
You could. I mean, think.
What if they did like hid Easter eggs in there that he was actually like they show his prequel?
Yeah,
and he's actually like the brother of the shark from Jaws.
But I think if I'm remembering this right, and I'm gonna look this up, I think the shark in Jaws was named Bruce, and I think that's why Bruce is named what he is in the movie. So because I think it was somebody on the production team was named Bruce, and they named Jaws Bruce. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to look it up quick.
While you're doing that, I'm going to say that I actually thought you were going in a different direction.
Sure.
And it's probably because my mind is on parks a little bit more. And I thought that if they really wanted to work on capacity and they really wanted to like have people kind of fill in other things at the park that aren't as full always, it would be really awesome if they had done a sequel with Crush.
Oh.
And following Crush and his adventures with, obviously...
Is that on your list or no?
No, it's not.
Oh, because that's great too. The whole turtle crew?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be great
because
too.
then you get Turtle Talk with Crush, kind of gets maybe a little bit more popular. I mean, not that it's not popular now. I think it's a very popular thing to do. But yeah, when you said it, I was like, oh, is he going to go with Crush? And you went with Bruce, which I think is also brilliant.
Well, I was right. It is the name. That's what they named the original shark in Jaws. They called him Bruce.
Okay.
And I swear he was named after somebody. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, this is so funny. The shark was originally called Bruce by the film crew members in reference to Steven Spielberg's lawyer, Bruce Raymer.
So they named him after a lawyer.
After the lawyer. That's so funny.
That is funny. So they named the shark, or they named the actual animatronic thing that they used?
Yes, the animatronic was
called-
referred to on set as Bruce.
Okay, gotcha.
He was Jaws never
Never had a name.
No,
Yeah.
and part of the goal was you didn't want to even see the shark until the very end, which is it's a popular filmmaking technique they used a lot in the 70s. The original like a lot of original horror movies were that way too, where you didn't actually see. You were kind of looking through the viewpoint of the killer, looking through their mask.
Yep.
It's actually, well, I do a little bit of film in one of my classes, not a lot, just a TO bit.
So you did. You just said that you thought that Finding Nemo 3, which wouldn't be Finding Nemo, you want Finding Bruce maybe or something.
I don't know if I want the Finding, but
Okay.
it may have to because of, they sort of made a tradition by naming the second one that.
Sure. How about Bruce's Day Off?
Sure.
I don't know. That was a Ferris Bueller reference. All right. So my next one is also because of a book. It's a book I've read. It's been a long time, so you gotta understand. I'm gonna struggle with that. But Gregory Maguire wrote Wicked. Follow me, okay? And Wicked, the whole thing about Wicked is that it's the story of Oz, but through the eyes of Elphaba, right? Through the eyes of the quote unquote Wicked Witch, which obviously in Wicked is not the Wicked Witch. Gregory Maguire writes a lot of novels retelling stories from the point of view of someone else in the book, okay? Or a rehashing the past. And so Mirror is his book having to do with Snow White, okay?
And it's in the perspective of the evil queen.
So in Mirror, the idea is, so let me hold on here. I got to pull up the description of the book so you can hear what he himself says. But Gregory Maguire, by the way, if you like those kinds of ideas of like the retelling of the story, super awesome author for those things. So basically, it's the novel. This novel, he says, this novel is a revisionist version of the Tale of Snow White set in rural Italy and featuring the historical Borgia family with Lucretia Borgia in the role of the evil queen. Okay? So this particular book, it was actually published in 2003. I think I read it in I don't know, probably 2007. He has a whole bunch of books like this, but he's also got one called Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, which is like the ugly stepsister version of the Cinderella story and about how Cinderella what was going on there. It's kind of a cool thing. But he's got a lot of really cool books like that. I think that Snow White, the fact that it doesn't have a sequel is kind of shocking to me because a lot of those classic ones in the was it 80s or 90s had those straight to VHS sequels.
Lion King 2.
Lion King 1.5.
1.5. Yeah, I was gonna say 2.5, but it is 1.5.
Right. You had Cinderella. You had Cinderella 2. You had 102 Dalmatians. I think went straight to VHS.
The Aladdin movies were.
Yeah. So I was shocked that this one didn't. That Snow White doesn't have one. Essentially, what's going on here is that the idea is that, like I said, it is a retelling, if you would, and basically the mirror reveals to this woman her plan failed to have this and so she had to take it into her own hands to kill Snow White, who's in the book I believe is Bianca, which makes sense, right? Because Bianca White. So, but it really is a cool retelling of the story. It's a little bit darker, okay, so it's kind of grown up a little bit more, as are a lot of Gregory Maguire stuff. But I think it'd be a cool way to do it, and I think it's a different kind of a sequel. It's not a sequel. It's let's look at the same story but from a different lens.
Animated or live action?
I think it would be. I would like to see an animated version, but like a grungier animation, if you know what I mean. So not.
Did you see Spider-Verse?
There you go. That's a perfect example. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Just like that. Mm-hmm. So Snow White, Mirror by Gregory Maguire.
Cool. All not the direction I thought you would go at all, but great idea.
Okay.
That's cool.
All right. What do you got?
My number one, and I know we kind of went out of order, but this one I think would be so cool. And I know you're going to love it too, just because of what the subject matter is. So I'm going to start with what the title is, and it's super cheesy, but I know that they would do this. So in the title, it already has the number 2 in it.
Dear God.
Ratatouille.
Yeah.
And what happens is Remy
I knew it was coming.
accidentally gets boxed up and
What?
shipped. Yes. He's in a box trying to get an ingredient, and the box is closed up, and it ships off to Mexico or China or somewhere. He shows up there and redoes a similar thing where he takes over another restaurant, but now he's cooking and he's learning all the culinary arts in another country, India. He learns curry and how to make Indian food. Think about all these great sequels.
He's
that
shipped
could
to your
take
house and has
place.
to learn how to make gluten-free food.
There you go. That would work. But there'd be no hair to pull on top of my head.
That's true.
That's true. But I just think that it's a perfect recipe for
Oh my God.
for making sequel after sequel after sequel. You name the country, you name the culinary delights. Remy shows up there and has to overcome. I mean, it's essentially the same story again, but for anybody that likes cooking or international food, it would highlight, whatever the specialties are of that particular place.
I thought the dad jokes were done after Ratatouille,
Oh no, it kept going.
and then you threw in it's a recipe for success, and you keep making
Yeah.
sequel after. Oh my gosh.
It would be great. I want them to start in Mexico. I want part 2 to be Mexico. I want part 3 to be China. I want part 4 to be India.
But see, ratatouille is a French dish. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but it could be Remy goes to Mexico. Ratatouille part 2. Remy goes,
Okay. I mean,
it's perfect.
it's
It
not
fits.
it's not a bad idea.
He gets boxed up and shipped every time.
Literally,
Or it's even a TV show.
It 100% makes sense that could happen, and so it's not a bad idea. The dad joke thing got me right from the beginning. I actually, it wouldn't be. There's ways to even do it where it's not necessarily boxed up, although that's a cool one, almost like what is it, Madagascar, or the Madagascar 2 or whatever, where they get
They're
put
floating in the
boxes. Yeah.
ocean. Yeah.
So I mean,
those parts are great.
so it could be something like that for sure. But I also think there's ways to do it where you follow him with the current restaurant, and so
Right.
it's just like another way to
Him
do that.
and Colette.
Yes, yeah. So that's a good one. I can't complain about that, especially because the food. And maybe we would get some cool restaurant in Disney. It's totally sidebar here. There's that game that is like, gosh, what do you want to call it? It's Kingdom Crossing. Is that what it's called? Wait, the game that is
The
it's
Disney
like
game.
it's Animal Crossing but Disney. Anyway.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one.
So Animal Crossing. But
I was
Disney.
thinking of I thought you meant Kingdom Hearts.
Oh,
Because that's a Disney one, too.
It is, and it's Dreamlight Valley. That's the one I'm thinking of. So Dreamlight Valley. In Dreamlight Valley, one of the things you have to do is you have to get Remy, and you open up a restaurant. Blah 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 blah. Why do we not have a Remy restaurant?
I do not know. Maybe because
Like, I'm kind of upset now that we got a crepe place instead of a Remy restaurant. Because the crepe place is not.
is it automatically inferred that there's going to be rats and vermin in the kitchen? And I feel like that's. I don't know.
I don't
know. I don't know how
maybe.
people think.
I mean,
I'd like to eat at the Ratatouille restaurant, but maybe there's something gross in the kitchen. I don't know.
okay. I guess that could be it.
I don't think like that.
I mean, there's a
but-
frog in the keg of beer at Oga's.
yeah.
And it's not a frog. It's not actually there, but it looks like it. It's
Yeah.
made to look like that.
Right, but
All
that
right.
place is dirty. I mean, if you were to do a Remy restaurant, it would be like
Hey,
clean,
look, if-
pristine French
If
restaurant
ratatouille,
with a rat in the
if they
kitchen.
could serve me a really good ratatouille, I wouldn't even care if it was made by a real rat. I wouldn't care. Ratatouille, I would love to have a good ratatouille. All right, so that brings me to my last one, since you actually took my number one as your number 5.
So you're
And
going to call this Rata 3E.
Oh my god, that was awful.
I know. That's
All right.
There's no more after that.
You want to edit that?
No.
Okay. All right. So here's one I don't understand how it's not been made. 100% don't understand how it's not been made. Now, it's been made as a live action movie, but this is the sequel to Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah.
And there's a Lewis Carroll wrote a whole series of stuff, right?
Yeah, the Jabberwocky.
Well, it's the Through the Looking Glass is number 2, and it even dives deeper into it. And the Jabberwocky appears in that, and it's.
I remember it being really scary. They did a made-for-TV movie in the
but it doesn't
need
to be the book. Sure, I mean, but they don't need to do it that way. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it could be very scary, but they don't need to do it like that. It could be something. You could do a live action similar to the Johnny Depp one, but I was thinking animated version because the whole idea is that in Through the Looking Glass, a lot of the entries that Lewis Carroll wrote had to do with like basically everything down there is opposite, just like your reflection. Left is right and right is left. So like running makes you stay still and standing still makes you go away. Walking towards somebody gets them further away. Some weird stuff. So like stuff you could do in animation, but you couldn't do live action wise, I think would be a kind of a cool thing. Plus, like it's Alice, and that character is so popular in the parks, right? Hatter and Alice.
Yeah.
Oh, like it's just. I think it needs to have been done. I'm shocked it hasn't been done. When you look at the number of things that they stole, I'm gonna say what they did.
Sure.
I mean, it was legal, but they legally took the IP of someone else, which actually was no longer their property because of the same reason why we could draw Steamboat Willie now, right?
And Winnie the Pooh.
Right. So they have a lot of those stories, right? Snow White is one of those stories. And they could easily take and do a sequel there. And this one, especially because the book and the material's already written. Total side note. And I can't believe I forgot to talk to you about this. My cousin was just in Disney 3 weeks ago. Okay. Her friend is a Disney travel planner. They went down together. It was her and it's my cousin's wife and her friend who I know from high school and went to Disney, okay, with their daughters. And on the teacups, Alice and Hatter jumped in the teacups with them.
Whoa.
And she has a video of it. And I'm like, I wrote to her, I go,
in Disney World.
Yes. I said, are you in California?
Yeah.
And she goes, no. And I knew she wasn't because like, it was more of a rhetorical question. I knew she wasn't because of the way that it looks. I was like, you don't understand. I'm like, that's a Disneyland thing.
Oh yeah.
And
I've seen it.
And I hope this is true. She said the characters have been crazy this time as far as the way they're interacting with people. A lot more walking around.
Hope so.
And whether or not that's the case when I'm there, or if it was because it was so light when they were there, because it was like the first week of June, so like summer break hadn't started, but whatever, it is what it is. The kids are old enough that they were probably not missing anything, so they're like at that age where it's like they're not really missing any part of any need. You don't need to be there for that part of school. Let's put it that way. They're missing half days or whatever.
Yeah, but there's not much going on in school other than your classes with regents and APs.
Right. But yeah, Alice, animated sequel, Through the Looking Glass. They did do a Through the Looking Glass movie. You are correct, a live action movie. They've actually had a couple different versions of it, but I want to see an animated Disney version that kind of lightens up the story instead of the darker side. So whereas the Snow White side, I want to see a darker, grittier version. I want to see a lighter version of Through the Looking Glass.
Well, and Disney has done reboots, live action remakes, right?
Yeah, which I don't consider sequels if they're just retelling the story.
Why can't, and we've said this before too, and this is, if I were to rank the number one thing movie or sequel wise I would want Disney to do, is I would want them to take some of those old movies, let's say Jungle Book or Robin Hood or The Rescuers, something from that era where a lot of the kids aren't super familiar with it, and do a digital animation.
Well, we've talked about
remake.
That,
Like that is the thing I would want to see more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because
that would be
it's
cool.
Such good stories and great and the songs. Look at the songs in Jungle Book, look at the songs in Robin Hood. So I picked those two first because I grew up watching those.
Well, wasn't Jungle Book actually produced by Walt Disney himself? I think it was actually.
Depends on what year. I mean, he died in what, 60?
I'm pretty sure Jungle Book was, but yeah, maybe not. So, do you have any honorable mentions? I do, but like I don't know if you do.
Yeah, I have a couple. I think you could do a third Monsters Inc. movie and have really young monsters like, babies and kids monsters, and then really old ones. And I think it would be funny to have monsters at the, let's say it's way in the future, and Sully and Mike are in like a retirement home, and it's all the funny things that are happening in the retirement home with the old monsters.
I wasn't laughing at you when I just giggled there. It was
right.
Like I can just picture the funny stuff.
So Mike has a son or a daughter, right? And that son or daughter has kids, and you got the little kids that are going nuts at the old folks' home and driving all the old monsters crazy. And I just think there's so many. I could just see like an old monster walking and the legs snapping and falling over, or so many funny things you could do. You take that whole humor and sensibility from the Monsters, Inc. franchise and apply it to an old folks home, or, one of the monsters goes and visits an elementary school and all the mayhem going on at the elementary school.
I mean,
I think that would be just great. Part 3 would be, again, in the future. So we'll say 1 is present, the Monsters University is past, and then future would be this movie.
I think that's...
I mean, that could have gone on my list too. I really liked that one. And then the only other thing I have, and this was kind of my favorite and my kids' favorite, is all of those, the Mater shorts that they made. I loved them so much. There's one that's like wrestling, and one that's like heavy metal Mater and the UFO and the ghost story. I love them. It's some of my favorite stuff that Pixar does.
Okay.
Give Mater a full movie.
I mean, yeah, he steals the show on all the other ones.
Mater's,
well.
make it Mater's movie. Lightning McQueen can be in it. Cruz Ramirez, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Just give me a full-length adventure with just him. And there's a little bit of that in part 2.
Like Mater goes to the city.
Well, yeah.
The country boy ends up in the city.
Because it was part 2 is the one where they were kind of the spies, right? That was Cars 2?
I think that's
the one where they're spies. And Mater's solo for part of that too. But give me a full movie with just,
I think
Mater and Larry the Cable Guy.
I can't argue with you there. I have a couple. My first one is going to be low-hanging fruit, and it's because of the recent ride change. I think a Princess and the Frog 2 that actually builds off of the story from the ride. Here's the thing. Disney's really good at telling stories in rides, in queues, and whatnot, but a movie that goes along with the story they're trying to tell would not be a bad thing. And it would be kind of cool, because then you'd be like, oh, now I get that. Now that's what those animals are. And they did such a good job in creating these new critters. Like, I would love to see a movie with those critters in it. So I think a Princess and the Frog 2, that's low-hanging fruit, but that's one I'd like to see.
Sure.
And then the other one is a Pinocchio 2.
Oh,
but
great.
this Pinocchio could be more along the lines of the original book that they also... It's because it's based on a book from like, oh my gosh, 1800s, I want to say. But the book that it's based on is a little bit darker. But there are stories that happen within that book that don't get told in the movie that I think would be kind of a cool idea to maybe do a sequel where you're telling the stories from that. Maybe you're telling the other stories. And it could be a concurrent type thing where, oh, this is what really happened when I was gone. Or it could be okay, now I'm back, and they find a way to retell the story, because there's other villains, and there's other things in that original book that they base that on. I think it's called The Adventures of Pinocchio is the original book. But yeah, so I think Pinocchio would be kind of a cool one too. There's so many movies that they've already done sequels, but they are those direct to video, direct to VHS. The ones with the pillowcases. You know what I'm talking about, the pillow pack case?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Yep. So,
did you see the trailer for the Mufasa movie?
Oh my gosh! Listen,
it looks cool, but I have no clue what the story is or what it's about. It's just like I don't love the trailer. I'm sure I'm gonna love the movie, but it's one of those trailers where I watch it and I go, what's happening?
I don't know, man. I love Lion King. I've made no bones about it. Lion King is my favorite Disney movie all time.
Did you watch the trailer though?
Yeah. I think it's going to be great.
Well, I think it's going to be great too, but it was just too vague. It didn't give me enough
Does
story.
it get any more vague than showing Moana standing on a beach with water washing over her feet? I mean, that first trailer for that was awful.
True. The second one was a little bit more.
Correct, but not much. I still don't know really what the storyline is.
This was a longer trailer, though.
Yeah, you're right.
This wasn't like a
This
teaser.
wasn't a 30-second teaser. You're right.
Yeah,
you are right.
It was before Inside Out 2, and I finished. I went, okay. I said, I want to see it, but
yeah, it was posted on YouTube by Disney like a while ago, right?
And I think maybe my problem with it is, why on earth are they in the snow? Did you see all that in the ice?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're not, and then there's this, and then there's that. And
there was a lot of
snow.
criticism online over that.
Well, yeah. And this isn't me criticizing it. It's me saying, I don't know what the heck's going on. And it's okay. It's a trailer, and it did its job because it made me interested.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm so used to trailers that spell it all out for me. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just what I'm used to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it, but that's just me. I'm excited for that because I'm a huge Lion King. I can tell you right now, my wallet is going to be severely lightened when I enter Animal Kingdom, and it's during the 30th anniversary of Lion King because
you're going to come back with...
I'm going to have some pins. I'm going to have some... Oh, it's going to be...
Some of those button-ups.
Oh, I would love to get some.
Oh,
yeah.
They're going to have a whole rack of them.
Yeah, I want to get a... I wonder if do they have a Lion King Roosevelt's? That's one I'd buy. I'd just bring the extra $70 for that.
I don't know.
So, if you're listening, Roosevelt's peeps, you should do that.
And they should sponsor our show.
Jeez. Yeah, we could be the new Paging Mr. Morrows.
I'm in.
Sorry,
Where
Nate.
do I sign?
Sorry, Nate. We're gonna travel with Roosevelt's now. Yeah, because that wouldn't really work well because we're not a visual medium, so we could be wearing our Roosevelt's on air, or maybe we're not.
Maybe someday we will be.
So that was a fun one. I know it was a diversion from what we normally talk about with parks. Doesn't mean that's what we're doing forever. It was just we kind of wanted to talk about this. It was a conversation we had at work this week. I'm looking forward to going in the next couple weeks. So we've got probably one more episode before, 2 more episodes before a trip report comes, and we're going to have a couple of those. We're just excited for the content we're going to be making this summer.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not following us on Instagram, make sure you do because we'll be going live at certain points of our trips coming up this summer. So that's going to be a huge one for us and kind of maybe doing some Q&A or answering some questions you've got about how are the parks that day. Or maybe, who knows, maybe I go live and you're like, wait, I'm at that park. You can come find me. Maybe I'll have a pin or a sticker for you. So just some thoughts. I'm looking forward to those. And don't forget to join us over on patreon.com/DizListPod and check out our t-shirts over at magicmerch.art. But it's been a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.